5 years ago, creating a commercial like the one you just watched would have required a production company, a director, a camera crew, actors, lighting, locations, editors, and in many cases a budget that most entrepreneurs simply cannot afford. Today, one person can produce something remarkably similar using AI-assisted tools. Now, that doesn't mean AI has replaced creativity. Let's be frank and real about this. Far from it, but it has changed what's possible for entrepreneurs, creators, and businesses with limited resources. And I think that's one of the biggest business shifts happening right now. Before we go any further, quick disclaimer as always, this video is for educational purposes only, should not be considered business or financial advice. You have to remember this. Whenever people talk about AI video, the conversation usually becomes emotional. Will AI replace filmmakers? Will agencies disappear? Will creators lose their jobs? I actually think those are the wrong questions to be asking. The more interesting question is this: who now has access to tools that were previously out of reach? Think about what happened with photography. Professional cameras became more affordable. Editing software became easier to use. Smartphones improved dramatically. That didn't eliminate professional photographers, but it lowered the barrier to creating quality content. I believe AI is doing something similar for video production. It's allowing more people to experiment, prototype, and create ideas that previously required much larger teams and a stronger, bigger budget. For entrepreneurs, that is significant from my point of view because attention is one of the most valuable assets in the modern day economy, and video remains one of the most effective ways to earn it. One of the biggest frustrations with creating video today isn't always creative work itself, it's the workflow. You write the script in one application, generate images somewhere else, create characters in another tool, move these assets into a video generator, then edit everything in separate softwares. This is time consuming, frustrating, and very frictionful. Every step breaks your momentum, every export creates friction, and before long you spent more time moving faster around than actually creating content. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to explore Buzzy in today's video, and I've decided to team up with them. What caught my attention wasn't simply that it generates AI video, it's that it approaches the entire production process quite differently. Instead of treating every stage as a separate task, Buzzy brings the creative workflow into one continuous workspace. The idea is simple: spend less time juggling tools and more time developing the creativity itself. Let's build something together so you can see what I'm talking about. So every good commercial starts with one thing, not the visuals, not the camera, not the effects. It starts with a story. Inside Buzzy, as I'm demonstrating right now, the first step is creating the concept. Let's imagine we're producing a premium advert for a fictional fitness brand. Instead of immediately worrying about shots, transitions, I can begin by outlining the message I want the audience to remember. As the project develops, Buzzy lets me refine the creativity direction while working inside the environment. One thing I appreciate is the flexibility here. Creative work isn't always linear. Sometimes your first idea evolves. Sometimes you decide the tone should change. Sometimes another approach works better than the one you previously started with. Being able to iterate without constantly having to rebuild the entire workflow saves a huge amount of time from my experience, and that's one important point. AI isn't replacing creative thinking, it's helping reduce repetitive production work. I've always said it, so you can spend more energy on the ideas themselves. You should be focusing more on the strategy instead of actually working on the repetitive admin tasks surrounding creativity. One challenge many people have experienced with AI-generated visual is consistency. That's just a given fact. You create a character you really like, then in the next stages and the next scenes, they look completely different. Different face, different clothing, different style, maybe 2 or 3 arms that they shouldn't have in the first place. That quickly breaks the illusion of a professional production. Inside Buzzy, you can build from a reference image and develop constant character assets that remain visually aligned across multiple scenes. For anyone producing longer form stories, branded campaigns, or recurring content, maintaining that consistency is incredibly important. It's one of those details viewers might not consciously notice, but they definitely notice it when it's missing. It's a given fact too. Consistency is part of what makes professional productions feel believable. Now we move into what is probably my favorite part of the workflow, the storyboard. That is where ideas begin turning into visual sequences. Instead of relying entirely on a single prompt and hoping for the best, you can develop each scene deliberately. I'm talking about camera angle, composition, lighting, scene progression, creative direction. Rather than starting over every time something isn't quite right, you can refine individual elements and continue improving the project. For me, that's a much more enjoyable creative process because filmmaking has always been about iteration, testing ideas, adjusting details, refining the story. AI doesn't remove the process, it simply makes those situations and iterations much faster. Now here's the stage I think most people are excited by when it comes to using Buzzy, turning static ideas into moving visuals. That is where you really begin to appreciate the value of keeping everything inside the same creative workflow. The script informs the storyboard informs the video, the character stays consistent, the visual style carries across each scene. Rather than trying to jump between multiple applications, trying to reconnect everything together, you're continuing the same project from one stage to the next. As the scenes are generated, you can review them, make adjustments where needed, and continue refining the overall sequence. The iterative process is something I think is really important. No AI tool is going to replace your creative judgment. That's just a given fact, and it shouldn't. From my perspective, you still decide what tells the strongest story. The AI helps accelerate production, but the creative direction still comes from you, the human. And I think that's exactly how these tools should be used from our perspective. Now let's zoom out from the software for 1 minute, because this isn't really about AI video, it's about business. One of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face is communication. You might have an incredible product, a fantastic service, and a genuinely valuable business, but if you can't communicate that value effectively, people may never discover it. Video has become one of the most powerful ways to communicate online. Whether you're explaining a product, launching a service, running paid advertising, growing a YouTube channel like I do, or building a personal brand, which I do as well, visual storytelling truly matters. Historically, high quality video production often required significant budget and specialist teams. Today, AI-assisted workflows are making professional-looking creative projects more accessible to smaller businesses and independent creators. That doesn't, of course, guarantee any success, but it does reduce one of the barriers to getting your ideas into the real world. See, another thing I like about Buzzy is that you're not thinking about one isolated video, you're thinking about an entire campaign. The same creative direction can be expanded into multiple assets. I'm talking about different scenes, alternative edits, different formats, additional creative variations. For entrepreneurs, marketers, and agencies, that flexibility can be valuable because campaigns often evolve. You test different messages, different hooks, different visuals, different audiences instead of rebuilding everything from scratch every time you need to make a change. You continue developing the same creative project. Buzzy also allows creators to explore workflows built by other users, which is something that I've never heard of before. If you're learning or looking for inspiration, being able to study how experienced creators structure projects can help shorten the learning curve, of course. Of course, it's imperative to note that your own ideas and brand should remain original, but seeing different creative approaches can be very useful when developing your own campaigns. This is why I've constantly said this, and I'll continue to say this in this video. AI is creating one of the biggest shifts in entrepreneurship we've seen in years, not because AI is replacing entrepreneurs, but because it's giving entrepreneurs more leverage. Leverage to test ideas faster, leverage to produce content more efficiently, leverage to communicate with customers more effectively. If you're running a startup, a marketing agency, an online business, or you're building a personal brand, being able to move from idea to execution more quickly can make the real difference, especially in 2026. Technology has always changed how businesses operate. The internet changed distribution, social media changed marketing, cloud software changed collaboration, and I think AI is changing production for the better from our perspective. The people who benefit most won't necessarily be those who use AI the most. They will be the ones who combine good judgment, strong ideas, and the right tools. So look, has AI made the £100,000 production team completely obsolete? No, large production teams still requires talented people, creative directors, filmmakers, editors, writers, producers. But what AI is doing is giving far more people access to creative capabilities that were once difficult or expensive to reach. That's the point I'm making with this statement. That opens the door for entrepreneurs, small businesses, and creators to experiment, learn, and produce content at a pace that simply wasn't possible a number of years ago. For me, that's the real story. Not replacing creativity, expanding access to creativity. That's simply what that statement is meant to illustrate. So, if you've been thinking about creating more cinematic content for your business, your brand, or your clients, I think Buzzy is an interesting platform to visit and explore. What stood out for me wasn't just the quality of the output, it was the way the workflow stays connected from concept and script through character creation and storyboard all the way to the finished video. Look, if you would like to explore Buzzy for yourself, you know exactly what you need to do. Check out the top link in my description as always, and that will get you going with Buzzy today. I'd also love to hear your thoughts. Do you think AI will become a standard part of professional video production over the next few years? Or do you think traditional production will remain largely unchanged? I'd love to hear your opinion about this. Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, you know exactly what you need to do. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, tap the notification bell. And as I get ready to round up this video, I want to say thank you for tuning in as always. And I'll see you in the next video where we are of course going to be talking about more business, finance, and entrepreneurship.